You just messed with the wrong man. That quiet sentence, muttered almost under Marcus Green's breath, was the only hint of what was about to unfold. To the world watching from the outside, Marcus was just another black man being slammed against a police cruiser, another suspect caught doing something suspicious. No drugs, no weapon, no crime scene. Just a dark-skinned man driving through an upper-class white neighborhood in a clean sedan, minding his own business. But what Captain Blake Conrad didn't know, what would soon blow up in his face, is that Marcus wasn't just some random guy off the street. He was a federal agent, an undercover FBI operative placed inside the town of East Haven on a mission to expose the corruption inside its police department. And now, that mission had just gone from investigation to exposure. Let's rewind to how Marcus got here. 3 months earlier, the FBI began receiving disturbing reports from East Haven. Complaints of racial profiling, arrests with suspiciously vague reports, evidence mysteriously lost or altered, a rising number of social media posts showing heroic drug busts by the local PD, but always with conveniently perfect camera angles, over-the-top arrests, and one man always in the spotlight. Captain Blake Conrad. A 42-year-old white officer with a square jaw and a TikTok account with 100K followers, Conrad was East Haven's golden boy. He called himself the content cop. His videos showed him saving lives, taking down gang members, and protecting the neighborhood. He often edited body cam footage for drama, adding music, slow motion, and narration. But there was one problem. None of it was real. The Bureau had reason to believe the man was faking crimes and using innocent people as props for social media fame. Reports suggested he was choosing vulnerable targets, young black men, immigrants, or the homeless, and planting drugs or fabricating charges to gain clout online. So the FBI needed someone who could blend in and catch him in the act. That's where Marcus Green came in. A seasoned undercover agent with 11 years in the Bureau and a background in criminal law, Marcus was perfect, calm under pressure, detail-oriented, and, just as importantly, he fit the profile of someone Conrad might target. He assumed the identity of Jay Carter, a freelance photographer from Atlanta, freshly moved into town to start over. No criminal record, friendly demeanor, clean cut, a guy who just wanted peace and quiet. But in East Haven, peace was a trap. Marcus started noticing it right away. Every time he walked to the store, there was a patrol car nearby. Every time he jogged through the park, someone radioed in. And every time he drove, especially at night, there were flashing lights in his rearview mirror. But he stayed calm. He needed proof, not suspicion. Then came the night that changed everything. Marcus had just picked up groceries and was heading home when a police cruiser suddenly tailgated him and flashed its lights. He pulled over calmly. No speeding, no swerving. Nothing illegal. His hand on the steering wheel, waiting. Captain Conrad stepped out. Camera on his chest. A smug look on his face. Backup officers standing behind him, already recording on their phones. License and registration. Conrad barked, not even making eye contact. Marcus provided it without hesitation. You mind stepping out of the vehicle? The captain asked. Marcus paused. What's the reason for the stop? Conrad's eyes narrowed. I said step out. Now. Moments later, Marcus was face first against the hood. And within minutes, Conrad found a bag of white powder under the passenger seat. Perfectly placed. Perfectly timed. Got ourselves a street-level dealer, Conrad said, making sure the camera had a clear angle. You're under arrest. That's when Marcus said it. Quiet. Controlled. Deadly serious. You just messed with the wrong man. Captain Blake Conrad wasn't like most cops. At least, that's what he told his 118,000 followers on TikTok. He wasn't in it just to serve and protect. He was in it to go viral. In his mind, policing had become a brand. Every shift was content. Every suspect was an opportunity. And every arrest, a chance to trend. With a carefully curated online persona, Conrad built a reputation as East Haven's fearless protector. His content had all the makings of a viral hit. High-energy body cam footage, dramatic voiceovers, background music ripped from action movies, and, most importantly, a narrative where he was always the hero. But what his followers didn't know, and what the FBI was quickly learning, was that much of what they were watching was staged. It started small. A routine traffic stop edited to look like a high-speed chase. A verbal warning framed as a life-saving intervention. But over time, the stunts got bolder. Conrad began tipping off local media about upcoming operations. He'd have his officers wear body cams during pre-planned drug busts, with evidence that conveniently appeared during the arrest. The drugs? Likely planted. The suspects? Often coerced or falsely accused. The outcomes? Posted online in under 24 hours, complete with hashtags like hashtag #BackTheBlue and hashtag #JusticeServed. His YouTube videos were monetized. His TikTok page was filled with flashy edits, freeze frames, and punchy catchphrases like, "Another one off the streets. This is why we don't let our guard down. Protect and serve. Every day, every shift." To the internet, he was a rising star in blue. To the FBI, he was becoming a dangerous fraud. Over the past year, East Haven's Black and Latino residents reported a disturbing pattern. They were being stopped more, searched more, arrested more. But the charges? Most were quietly dropped. No evidence. No court date. No explanation. Yet somehow, the videos still made it online. Edited to make the suspects look guilty, the arrests look justified, and Conrad looked like a hero. Then came the biggest red flag. A 17-year-old named Jamal Woods. Jamal had never been in trouble before. Straight A student. Part-time delivery driver. But one night, he was pulled over by Conrad, accused of having drugs in his car, and handcuffed on the side of the road. The video hit 1 million views. But Jamal's mom wasn't buying it. She hired a lawyer. They demanded the full body cam footage, not the edited version Conrad posted. And that's when the file was suddenly lost. The local DA dropped the case, but the damage was done. Jamal's name was all over the internet. Meanwhile, Captain Conrad celebrated his bust on Instagram stories, thanking his fans for standing with the blue. That incident finally reached the right ears, the FBI's Internal Affairs Unit. They launched an internal review, but Conrad had covered his tracks well. No paper trail. No one willing to testify. So they changed tactics. They plant someone inside East Haven. Someone who looked like a typical target. Someone Conrad couldn't resist. Enter Agent Marcus Green. With a false identity, a planted background story, and a carefully crafted cover as a freelance photographer named Jay Carter, Marcus moved into a quiet rental on the edge of town. His mission? Document, record, and wait. Within 2 weeks, Conrad had already noticed him. A black man, alone, with no clear job, walking through a predominantly white suburb? To a man like Conrad, Marcus wasn't just suspicious. He was content. The clock was ticking. Marcus could feel it. All he had to do was wait for the captain to take the bait. It was supposed to be just another night. Marcus Green, still undercover as Jay Carter, had just picked up groceries, some bottled water, and a pack of batteries from the corner store. It was late, nearly 9:30 p.m. The streets were quiet. The moonlight reflected off the hood of his silver sedan as he turned down a residential street heading home. And that's when he saw them. Headlights. Bright. Close. Too close. A police cruiser creeping up behind him. No siren, no announcement. Just pressure. Marcus didn't panic. He knew this moment was coming. He'd already been followed before. Shadowed. Eyed suspiciously by officers who looked him over like a problem waiting to happen. But tonight was different. The lights suddenly flashed red and blue. He was being pulled over. Marcus pulled calmly into a parking lot of a closed-down diner, kept both hands on the wheel, and waited. His car, a loaner from the bureau, was equipped with hidden microphones and interior cameras, just in case something like this happened. It was no longer just surveillance. It was a trap, and Captain Blake Conrad had just walked into it. The cruiser door opened. Boots hit pavement, and there he was, Captain Conrad, GoPro strapped to his chest, backup officers behind him with smartphones recording. This wasn't law enforcement. This was a show. License and registration, Conrad demanded, already filming. Marcus handed them over without a word. You live around here? Yes. Where exactly? 3 blocks down. On Lincoln Drive. Conrad nodded, then leaned in closer. Step out of the vehicle. For what reason? Marcus asked politely, aware every second was being recorded. Conrad didn't answer. Instead, he opened the driver's door, grabbed Marcus by the arm, and yanked him out. Resisting, he barked toward the GoPro. Got a tough one tonight. He spun Marcus around and slammed him onto the hood of the car. His phone fell. The groceries hit the pavement. A carton of eggs cracked open underfoot. Then came the final act. Conrad opened the passenger side door, bent over, and after a few seconds of searching, stood up holding a small Ziploc bag with white powder. Well. Looks like we got ourselves a dealer, he said proudly. What's this, huh? Cocaine. Marcus stared at the bag. Calm. Controlled. Inside, he was boiling. He had just witnessed a high-ranking officer plant evidence on a federal agent. He had it all on tape. Multiple angles. Clean audio. And Conrad had no clue who he was dealing with. Within minutes, Marcus was in cuffs, shoved into the back of the cruiser. Conrad posed outside the car for a thumbnail shot, literally. One of the officers filmed him pointing to the bag and shaking his head for dramatic effect. They didn't drive him to the station right away. Instead, Conrad stood outside the vehicle, talking to his camera. This is why we patrol, he said. This guy didn't think we'd notice. Thought he could bring poison into our neighborhoods. Not today. The video was uploaded before they even reached the precinct. Within 2 hours, it had 150,000 views. Hashtags. Hashtag justice serve. Hashtag hero cop. Hashtag drug bust. But while social media was eating it up, the FBI was already watching everything. Back at headquarters, agents monitoring Marcus's case had captured the full footage from his car. Uncut, unedited, and damning. They saw Conrad enter the car with nothing in hand. Then suddenly, he emerges with a bag that had clearly not been there before. The audio confirmed it. Conrad planted the evidence. Marcus didn't need to say anything in that moment. He just sat back and let the captain dig his own grave. The sting had officially begun. By morning, the video was everywhere. Captain Conrad strikes again. Another thug off the streets. Hero cop saves suburban community. It had racked up over 500,000 views, been shared across TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and was already being picked up by local news outlets. Captain Blake Conrad was eating it up. He strutted into the East Haven Police Department with a smile on his face and his chest puffed out. Reporters were calling. Commenters were praising him. And his follower count was soaring by the minute. But while Conrad basked in his moment of fake glory, something was happening behind the scenes, something he never saw coming. Because just across town, inside an FBI field office, the real footage was being reviewed, time-stamped, and prepared for court. The moment Marcus Green was cuffed, the Bureau acted fast. Within hours, agents began organizing evidence. Multiple camera angles from inside Marcus's car. Audio recordings of Conrad planting drugs. Real-time footage of the other officers standing by, watching it happen. And even a live upload to social media, proving Conrad's intent to stage it for clout. They had everything. The chain of custody. The setup. The false arrest. It wasn't just misconduct. It was a textbook case of civil rights violation, evidence tampering, obstruction of justice, and abuse of power. The FBI didn't just want Conrad. They want a clean house. They were about to make an example of him. That afternoon, just as Conrad was prepping to do a quick interview with a local news anchor in front of the station, a fleet of black SUVs pulled up outside the East Haven Police Department. Doors opened. Badges were flashed. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Step aside. Agents flooded the building. Officers stood frozen. Some looked confused, others terrified. Captain Conrad walked outside to see what was happening. Still smiling. "What's going on?" he asked one of the agents. That's when Marcus Green stepped out of one of the SUVs, no longer in a hoodie and jeans. Now in a suit and tie, clean cut, and holding his badge high. "You arrested the wrong man, Captain," he said, walking right up to Conrad. "I'm Special Agent Marcus Green, and you're under federal investigation." Conrad's smile vanished. The FBI didn't wait. They placed Conrad in cuffs, the same way he did to Marcus the night before. The irony was thick. "You can't do this," he shouted. "I have rights." Marcus leaned in, calm and cool. "Yeah, and so did all the people you framed." Dozens of phones recorded the arrest. Cameras from news vans swiveled toward the chaos. This time, it was Conrad going viral. But not as a hero, as a criminal. Inside the station, federal agents seized computers, phones, and hard drives. They reviewed years of video content, arrest logs, and internal communications. And what they found was worse than expected. Multiple staged arrests edited for social media. Deleted footage from real body cams. Evidence of targeting minorities for views. Officers instructed to follow suspicious people who fit a certain look. It wasn't just one rogue cop. It was a system Conrad had built, using social media fame as a weapon, turning innocent people into props for his brand. The case exploded. Civil rights lawyers jumped in. Activists marched. Victims came forward. And within days, the Justice Department opened a full-scale investigation into East Haven PD. And Marcus? He didn't say much. He gave one quiet statement to the press. Justice isn't loud. It's patient and always catches up. Then he walked away, mission complete. When Captain Blake Conrad was marched out of the East Haven Police Department in handcuffs, the internet lit up, but not in the way he wanted. His mugshot replaced his smiling selfies. His hero cop title was replaced with disgraced officer charged with civil rights violations. The same comment section that once praised his tough-on-crime attitude now filled with shock, outrage, and betrayal. The truth had come out, and this time, the cameras were rolling for the right reasons. The FBI's case against Captain Conrad was airtight. He was charged with civil rights violations, planting false evidence, obstruction of justice, tampering with official police footage, conspiracy to deprive citizens of their rights, and perhaps the most symbolic of all, abuse of public office for personal gain. It was clear he didn't just fail his badge, he weaponized it for fame. The court hearings drew national attention. News vans lined the courthouse steps. Social media users, many of whom once supported him, now demanded accountability. But Conrad, he stuck to his story. He called it a setup. He claimed the FBI was trying to make an example out of a white cop. He even argued that Marcus Green had entrapped him. But the evidence was irrefutable. The car footage, the audio, the raw body cam files, the digital trail of edited content, the internal emails that revealed his obsession with going viral, often encouraging his officers to find action before the end of the shift. At trial, one of his own officers even flipped, admitting under oath that several arrests had been staged to boost the captain's social media brand. It wasn't policing. It was performance. And now, the curtain had dropped. Marcus Green, meanwhile, stayed silent in the public eye. No interviews, no viral posts, no flashy press statements. He returned to his quiet apartment in D.C., wrote a detailed internal report for the Bureau, and resumed his work in the shadows. But to many, he was a quiet hero, not because he wore a badge, but because he stood up in the face of corruption, even when it meant becoming a target himself. He didn't retaliate with rage. He didn't blast it all over the internet. He used the truth, and let the evidence speak louder than any hashtag ever could. Over the following weeks, the effects rippled across East Haven and far beyond. The aftermath. The East Haven Police Department was federally audited and temporarily placed under state oversight. At least 6 other officers were suspended pending investigations into prior arrests linked to Captain Conrad's staged stunts. The town council launched a policing reform committee, with new policies introduced around body cam transparency, social media used by law enforcement, and racial bias training. Several victims of Conrad's fake arrests, including the 17-year-old Jamal Woods, filed lawsuits, some of which resulted in major settlements. But perhaps the most powerful change? For the first time in a long time, the people of East Haven, especially the Black and Latino communities, felt seen. A public wake-up call. Across the country, the story sparked a much-needed conversation. How many officers are chasing clout instead of justice? How do viral videos shape public perception of crime? And most importantly, how many innocent people have been punished, not for what they did, but for how they looked in front of camera? Captain Conrad's fall wasn't just a personal failure. It was a warning. That when power is mixed with ego, and when the badge becomes a brand, justice gets buried under likes, filters, and lies. But not this time. Because this time the wrong man got framed. And that man just happened to be an undercover FBI agent. The lesson. So what's the takeaway? It's easy to be dazzled by a viral arrest video. The flashing lights. The loud commands. The handcuffs. The suspect who doesn't speak. The hero cop who does. But real justice? It isn't flashy. It doesn't need edits. It doesn't chase algorithms. Real justice is slow, deliberate, and done when no one's filming. And sometimes, the person you're targeting isn't just innocent. They might be the very person sent to hold you accountable. Captain Conrad forgot that. He thought he could frame a man, boost his views, and be applauded for it. Instead, he framed himself. Final scene. As for Marcus Green, he's back in the field, working new cases. Quiet as ever. Always watching. Because for people like him, justice doesn't need a platform. It just needs patience and the truth.